Okay, let's jump in. We're unpacking a set of sources today for a reflection set for February 3rd, 2026.
Right.
And it really zeroes in on the end of Matthew chapter 9, specifically verses 27 to 38. And I have to say, the way these sources frame it, it feels a lot more intense than, your standard Sunday school reading.
It really is. Most of the time, people just focus on the miracles.
The blind man seeing, the mute man speaking.
Exactly. But the sources we have argue that all of that is actually just setting the stage.
Set up for what?
For a really specific and I'd say pretty radical definition of compassion.
So let's walk through that narrative then to see how we get there. It starts with two blind men following Jesus.
And they're not quiet about it. They're shouting, "Have mercy on us, Son of David!"
Which is a huge deal. Son of David isn't just a polite title.
No, it's a messianic title. It's
right.
political. They're making a public claim about who he is.
But what's interesting is Jesus doesn't stop for them in the street.
Right, he waits. He lets them follow him into the house. It's a much more private setting.
It almost feels like he's testing their resolve. And then he asks them this really direct question. Do you believe that I'm able to do this?
He's not looking for an audience. He's looking for trust. It's personal. And his response is, according to your faith, be it done to you. So the miracle is tied directly to that belief.
But then the scene just flips completely. The moment they leave, someone else is brought in.
A mute man who the text says is oppressed by a demon. Jesus heals him, the man speaks, and the reaction just, it splits the room.
Right. You have the crowds who are totally blown away. They're saying, nothing like this has ever been seen in Israel.
And then you get the Pharisees, the religious leadership, and their reaction is the complete opposite.
They go dark. They say he's doing this by the power of the prince of demons.
It's total polarization, and that's the pivot point. This is where the source material brings in this really provocative analogy about a murderer.
Okay, yeah, this is the heavy lifting of the reflection.
It asks you to think about how you react when you hear about a terrible crime. You see a murderer on the news, and your gut reaction isn't pity.
No, it's outrage. You want justice.
Exactly. And the source points out that even if the person had a hard life, a judge might lessen the sentence, but the crime is still a crime. Our natural response isn't compassion.
So how does that connect?
Well, the theological argument is that this is how humanity stands before God. The text uses words like rebellion, enemies at heart. So logically, we should expect a judge.
We should expect condemnation, which is exactly what the Pharisees were handing out.
But Jesus doesn't act like a judge, and this is the key. The text says when he saw the crowds, he had compassion.
And that word is important.
It's crucial. The Greek word is planchnizomai. It's not just feeling sorry for someone. It comes from the word for guts or bowels. It's a visceral physical reaction.
A gut punch.
A gut punch, yeah. Because of how he sees them. He doesn't see a crowd of rebels. He sees people who are harassed and helpless.
Like sheep without a shepherd.
And those words, harassed and helpless, are actually pretty violent in the original language. They can mean things like being mangled, skinned, thrown down. He sees a flock that's been attacked.
That changes everything. If you see a criminal, you call for a judge. If you see a wounded sheep, you call for a shepherd.
Precisely. And that's why the whole passage immediately pivots to the harvest.
He turns to his disciples and says, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few."
Which is such an interesting problem, isn't it? The issue isn't a lack of opportunity. The harvest is there. The bottleneck is the number of workers.
And his instruction isn't what you'd expect. He doesn't say work harder.
No. He says to pray. Pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into his harvest.
It's a call for reinforcements. It's an admission that the need is just too vast for the people who are already there.
It is. That visceral compassion he feels has to be mobilized. It has to become a mission.
So the whole journey in these sources goes from this very individual fate, the blind men getting their own sight back,
to seeing the entire crowd through Jesus' eyes, as wounded, not wicked.
And then finally to a call for active participation, to become one of those laborers.
Which leaves us with a really practical question for you to think about. If the harvest is made up of people who are, in that very specific sense, harassed and helpless, where do you see that kind of distress in your own environment today? Because according to this text, that's exactly where the work is waiting.